The juvenile home in New York? What was your experience with the kids? How did you get them to stop or to like change their aberrant behavior?
I had them draw 3 views to a gun.
Jacque, can you start at the beginning of the story? When you went in to the social worker and you said you wanted to show him another method?
Yeah.
Can you start there?
And as a social worker, if I can watch what they do. He said, no, I'll be canned if I did that. So I said, is there any way around that? He said, well, you can go in the next room. There's a half-silvered mirror. You can see one way, but they can't see you. So I took that.
This was in juvenile home. They called them the juvenile delinquents in New York City. Go ahead.
He gave them a moral lecture. You're going to hurt your parents. You're going to hurt everybody.
He pulled out a gun.
Nothing with a gun. He pulled a gun out of the drawer that this kid made. They made guns out of water pipe in the old days. They worked, but they weren't that good.
They're called zip guns.
Why he pulled the kid out in terms of a moral lecture. And the kid said to me, he heard that all his life. Moral lecture. You know.
The tape recorder.
Yeah. So I said to the kid, I can't treat you here. I can treat you.
Can I fill in some of the story? Yeah. So Jacque went out to the hallway and he made a wire tape recorder. They didn't have tape recorders in those days. So he asked the kid, what do you think of the social worker? And he said, he's a horse's ass. And then Jacque went back into the social worker and said, how did you make out with Johnny? And he said, well, we had a great rapport. You know, it went really well. And Jacque said, how do you know that? And he said, I felt it intuitively. And then Jacque played the tape. And he said, that no good son of a bitch. And Jacque said, no, that's not how you talk scientifically. You say, I can get to Bobby, I can get to Phil, but I can't get to Johnny. I tried 13 different ways. And so then Jacque said, can I give it a try? And he said, well, no, I'd be canned, and you can't do that. And he said, well, do you want to learn a different approach, or do you want to just do what you're doing? So he let Jacque try. The next day, Jacque came in with dirty jeans and a sweatshirt. You know, the other guy had glasses and a suit, and it was real alienated. And he came in looking like the kids, and he held up this gun. He said, you make this gun? And the kid said, I told the guy I did yesterday. And he looked at it and he shook his head and he said, come here, take a look at this. He said, the trigger pin is a 1/4 of an inch off center. If you take 2 washers and pull them here and you can put it over. And he said, hey, you work here? And Jacque said, with those assholes? No. And he said, hey, you're all right. Remember this? And then he said, Jacque pulled out a stainless steel gun that he made. And he said, I'll teach you how to make a gun like this. And he said, I could never know how to make a gun like that. And he said, yeah, you can. He went maroon, good looking. It was a nice gun. He said, but we have to meet. He said, I'll teach you, but we have to meet in the park. And he said, can I bring my friends? So Jacque knew he was getting to him. So they met in the park. And he taught him, he showed him, he said, first you got to learn how to do 3 views. And he said, what's 3 views to? And he drew, Jacque drew a picture of a girl. I can't do it so fast like you do. And a really nice looking girl, Goyle, New York City, yeah. And he put it up there, he did a quick sketch, and he said, well, that's a nice looking girl. And Jacque said, yeah, she looks good from the front, but from the side, this is what she looks like. He says you need 3 views to be able to tell what she looks like. So he understood, and he started teaching them 3 views to a gun, and then he took them drafting, and then he took them to things that were more interesting, boats and automobiles and, you know, and different things. And even when I met Jacque, I don't know, it must have been 50, 60 years later, they still called him and thanked him, and they were draftspeople and engineers, and, you know, so that's how I remember it.
There you go.
He did the same thing with the Klan, because he took them off of doing, you know, just talking like that, and they came to him and said, you know, I don't know how to get to my kids at all. And Jacque showed him, and he also showed him how to raise animals. He said, I can't get my dog to do anything. And he got them off the language they were doing, and he got them on training dogs and helping the kids, and then he got them reading different things, so he really changed them. But you want to talk about your mother? How you changed her? Are you all right?
Oh yes, I brought a Japanese kid home that I met in California. I didn't spend much time at home. And my mother said, I don't want that kind around. Well, enough for the Japanese kid to hear it. He was 3rd generation American. But my mother was brought up as a racist. So I used logic, didn't work at all. She said, I still don't want to work. So I think, if you can't get the mother, you can't get to anyone. So I tried again. I told her a month later, I told her that he saved my life, the Japanese kid. I was swimming in the East River, and there's a high wall. This is a lie. I couldn't get ashore. And Masato worked on a boat, and he threw a lifesaver to me. I said, Mother, he saved my life. She said, oh my God, I didn't know he saved your life. I said, well, he did. My mom said I was very rude to him one time. I said, yes, you were. Can you get him to come back again? It won't feel good. I feel very guilty. I should give him a chance. Well, I said, I'll ask him. I don't know if he'll come back. I said that to get her to plead more, and she pleaded more. And I called Masato. I said, the minute you walk in the door, she's going to hug you. God bless you for saving my son. Yeah. That's what she's going to do. And that's what she did when Masato came in. Well, she talked to him, and she had him stay for dinner. And she was talking to him. And I came back and said to my mother, what do you think? She said, he's a very nice boy, very smart, and he has no Japanese mannerisms. He's 3rd generation American. And she got to like him. A month later, she put her arm around him and called him a son. That's quite a difference. At that time, I said, Mother, he never saved my life. I told her the truth. She said, you little devil. You never opened the door. But anyway, she doesn't like him. And
Can I tell this, unless you want to do it, tell the story of how you got into the Klan with Bambi, your daughter?
Yeah, sure.
Can I? In order to win the head of the Klan over, Jacque knew he had to work with the head of the group to impress him, because all they liked were guns and their dogs, you know. So he took his daughter, which was about 3 years old, and he had her put a cigarette in her mouth, and he took a mirror and took a gun and shot about 40 feet away and shot the cigarette, and it splattered. And Lou said, boy, you're a good shot, but I'd never do that with my daughter. But he didn't tell him Jacque would never do that with his daughter either. He taught her, he put a hairpin in the cigarette, and he taught her when the blank gun went off to roll her lips and the cigarette splattered. So he won the respect of Lou, the head of the clan. He said, will you come and tell my boys, the clan, how you shoot, you know? So he said, I'd be glad to, you know? And so that's how he got into the clan. You got to use those manipulative tricks, you know, at the start where they're at, and then change them to what they need.
Never attack. Never say that's wrong. Or you believe in the wrong information. Never say that. Whenever they say we've got to get rid of all the goddamn niggers, that's it. Say the sooner the better. Always agree with it.
And then he said, you're right, but it doesn't go far enough. And then they listen, you know? He always says, you're right, it doesn't go far enough, though. I wanted to mention what I said to you. When Jacque was in Tuamotu, and he watched them make love on the beach, because they make love right in the open on the beach. And they didn't have any fetishes. Like in this culture, the camera dollies in on the breasts or the butt or the legs. So that generates your fetishes. But there, they didn't have any of that. So he wanted to watch how they'd make love if they didn't have that. And they stroked the whole woman from the top of the head all the way down and say, me like you. You know, they didn't stop at the breasts or anything. And then Jacque usually says, it's just like when you pet a dog. You stroke the whole dog. You don't stop at the balls. So it was learned. That behavior is learned from your culture. There's no human nature that way. Are you all right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So, do you have any questions?
Yes, sir. Okay, so you've talked about a society without any money, but how is that really going to happen? It's going to take a massive culture change for that to occur.
If I can get to politicians and tell them what to do, I can do it. But I can't do it without getting to them first. In other words, if your culture advocates competition, the free enterprise system says competition is good. It makes people think better about things. I said it's not true. You've never seen a system where cooperation was used.
Well, America went to war with Saddam Hussein over oil. I mean, essentially, that's what it was all about. It was all about controlling oil supplies, and I mean that's going to continue. And you've got China as an economic area is growing now.
I use examples. I said, if you were brought up in China as a baby, you'd speak Chinese and walk and have the same facial expression the Chinese have.
You know,
they can see that.
The culture is really falling apart, though. Everything is falling apart. And it's going exponentially from the environment to unemployment. So that, and we feel there is going to be another bank crash. And if people don't know about this direction, they can't advocate it. Because there'll be a point that enough people who can do something, it only takes one or two people to initiate something. If they know about this, and they do, it could make change. You never know. But Jacque and I work at it all the time. And it's not, people say, how will you make it happen, or how will it happen? It doesn't depend on us. It depends on what all of you do. How much you learn about it, how much you practice talking to others about it. It will take more and more people learning about it. So don't put it on us, you know what I mean?
Right.
It really takes
It's
the work of everybody.
When you leave here, if you don't talk to people nothing will happen.
Because
So I tell that to every group that comes here to talk to other people, practice teaching them how to teach children about science. You see, science examines things. Science doesn't start out with, it starts out with the Bible. The Bible says, thou shalt not kill. Almost all Bibles. And then it says, love your enemy. If a man strikes you, turn the other cheek and strike him back. That's the way you win him over. So you use the Bible, which most people believe in. Use what they believe in.
So you would say religion is not, elimination of religion is not the way to go?
Unless they say, what do you think of the Bible?
somebody asked, what was the question?
Isn't religion at the root of our problems?
Yes. He's saying, isn't religion at the root of our problems?
It's partly at the root, not completely. It's their notions about winning any game that you play. And I say, when a man wins, it doesn't mean he's better than another man. It means he's better at that game.
Right.
That's all it means.
Mm-hmm. And the Bible, too, is subject to interpretation. But science is not subject to interpretation. When you show a blueprint, you can show a blueprint of an automobile anywhere in the world, and it will all turn out the same anywhere. Because there's no French way of making an automobile or a Chinese way of making an automobile. It's just a mathematical and mechanical way of making an automobile. So science has a common language, and that's what kids will be taught in the future. So they can really talk to each other, because there's so much interpretation in everyday language. Gets into trouble.
You have your hand up.
Oh, no, just stretch it.
Okay.
I would just like to comment. I think it helps, more importantly, and it was part of the discussion that we were having in one of the domes there, to remind people that if at any point, I like the analogy of the body, but maybe a point that a lot of people can relate to, you are born totally helpless, in the sense that if at any point you didn't cooperate with the environment around you, you would have died a long time ago. And so if you want to bring about this type of social engagement, I know in my own experience, I've known about the Venus Project now for about 3 or 4 years, and it's taken me a while to kind of it's kind of a mind shift that you go through, but once it kind of sets in, it becomes really easy to see how you relate to everyone on the planet. You are all born under similar conditions, and so you know it's really important to go through that with people and remind them that competition at this stage in our evolution is totally counterproductive. It works against us and even themselves, meaning, for those people who kind of exist in this realm where, well, I'm worth $300 million, but he's only worth $250 million. In all relativity, that $50 million is virtually worthless. There's not a lot you can do, in reality, but they'll compete anyway. And I think you just have to remind that person, well, as soon as we switch to something similar to the resource-based economy, you're going to experience a luxury that you couldn't experience before. Your whole train of thought of competing for millions of dollars. You competing actually hurts yourself. It doesn't. No one really wins. You just continue to struggle with yourself and the environment around you. It's kind of like you have to remind people to choose the path of least resistance. And at this point, it just seems like with economic collapse, with environmental collapse, it seems as though it's just the path of least resistance is the resource-based economy, and we just need to figure out how to,
Implement
educate
it.
people to transition or to want to make the transition.
It's very important, yeah.
I don't believe in utopia. A lot of people think I'm a utopia. I think no matter how good the society that I design, that the future generations will change it. Everything changes. There's nothing that I know of that remains the same. Maybe there's a king in England, but there won't be 20 years from now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he has to outlive its usefulness. But there's no utopia. There's no final frontier. Man will keep changing, always, into the distant future. Do you understand that?
Mm-hmm.
If he comes to a conclusion, says, man is this or that, and that's it, then he dies. You know, he doesn't intellectualize anymore. He can't go and stop at any point and say, this is it.
You know, you're talking about those people that compete. He has 250 million and this guy has 300 million. They always need recognition from other people. They always need that artificial respect. If they lost their money, their whole identity would go.
I see.
And they're very, very, they have nothing in their head, other than that. And it's an artificial game. And those to us are the bums of society. When they have a big pile of food, that means, and other people have a little teeny food, and they're there with all that food, that's what the money represents. They're really the bums.
And once it becomes
vulgar.
Once it becomes more of a social standard to live in this way of allowing access to goods, it'll be like, that person who does want to hoard, I think will be socially pressured to the point where they just wouldn't even want to do it in the first place. Everyone would kind of just, because everyone is such a product of their environment, once the environment has changed, that 1% that normally would have hoarded all those goods, they would just kind of be so ostracized, or
there would be nothing in it.
Right? Yeah,
they could hoard it, but it would be a burden.
Right.
And Jacque always used to give the example too. If there was one person that had a big, many art pieces that are supposedly valuable, and the community went to him and said, "Why don't you put it on tour so everybody can appreciate it?" And he says, "No." And you put it in the newspapers and the magazines the next day. He said no.
Yeah.
He'd be ostracized.
Right.
He said, "Okay, take it."
Yeah, he wouldn't have any friends to back him up either, because most everyone would feel similarly.
Nobody would admire him for it. What about emotions in the future? Would people be emotionless?
No. If a woman is driving a car and it slips on the ice and turns over, and she can't get the kids out, she can't open the door. And she says, "Oh my God, the gasoline is going to spill over the engine, and my kids are going to die. Oh my God," that's emotions. But if she converts the emotions, like so, 2 airplanes.
But if she converts it into an action pattern.
Yeah, I saw 2 airplanes hit and locked together, and they were falling. So I ran into the hangar and got a Jeep and a fire extinguisher. And I got to where the plane crashed before it hit the ground and used a fire extinguisher. And I saved about 4 people that way. I converted my emotions to an action pattern. If you grab a rock and break the window and take the kids out, that's converting emotions. Instead of, "Oh my God, my kids are going to die." That's emotion. But if you convert it to an action pattern, that's better. Do you understand that? So in the future, most kids will have an action pattern and discuss these things.
Maybe working on things to make life better. You know, that's converting the emotions. I mean, we're working on the problems that we have instead of complaining about it, thinking nothing will happen. The whole society is based on working on problems.
Problems common to all people is what we work on.
Did you go over love?
Over what?
Did you go over love?
Love is a word people use a lot today. Say, I love you to a girl or to a guy, depends on his orientation. But if you say, I love you to a girl, it could mean a different thing. It could mean you want to get laid, or it doesn't always mean that you love a person. So I think that in the future, the word love will be thrown out, and they'll use a word like extensionality, being extensional to another person, giving them better life, giving them more information than they have, so you become extensional. And they like being around you because you're very extensional to them. You understand what I mean?
And the word love, too, gets very confusing to people. You know, they think, well, I'm with this person, do I love this person? And then the next day they do something, I don't love this person. You know, do I love them or don't I love them? If you lived with a replica of yourself, how long would you be together? You know what I mean? Sometimes you like what you do, sometimes you don't. You get better at certain things, and then you fall back at other things you thought you already learned. So you like certain things about people and certain things you don't. And if you can identify with those things, the things that you do like or that you don't like, you can get along better with a person. Not thinking, well, do I love them or don't I love them? It's never that black and white.
It's interesting that in Victorian times they used to get married very young, and then they would be dead by the time they were 40. Yeah. Now we've got the situation where people are getting married later, and then they're living out to a very good age like yourself, and you're now getting 40, 50, 60-year marriages now, and that's a very long time to be committed to one person, and it's something that you go through and you work through in marriage. I think I've been married 34 years, and marriage is not an easy road. Sometimes it's difficult things going on, and you do have to work at it. That's what I say to all you younger people.
Most marriages today, I think, last 5 years.
Over here on the Venus Project. Yes. You have a question.
I have one. How do you see this resource-based economy coming into existence without first transitioning into some kind of one world government or something?
How do you see a resource-based economy coming about without first transitioning into a corporate one, first transitioning into a one world government where corporations are at the helm? Do you see that first?
Corporations will fail. It is why they fail, because they automate. If they use more and more automation, the automobile companies, they get rid of more and more people, and the people don't have money when they don't work. If you automate too much, and they demand a different lifestyle, they will demand a different lifestyle. If your job is automated, you'll be given a guaranteed income. You know what I mean? Yes.
I gave an idea to an individual Thursday night.
Can you speak up a little louder, maybe he can hear you?
I gave an idea to an individual Thursday night that with the idea of Project Venus, you could eliminate having a job that you don't like and being a slave to the job, and you could spend more time with your family and being with your loved ones. And I was shocked by their response, and their response was, why would I want to spend more time with my kids? I would go insane. And
they were honest.
It was honesty, but I tried to understand it because it's not my thought patterns. And what would you say to that comment?
would get off. I wouldn't engage that person. He's too far gone. In other words, when I meet a new guy, sometimes I ask him, who do you admire in the whole world above all other people? Just one punch alone. He knocked the guy out in one punch. That's so low grade, it would take years to change him. It doesn't pay. Say, I see, leave it alone. Get off.
People aren't rational, you know what I mean? And trying to deal with people rationally just gets more difficult sometimes. Unless you're trained in the sciences or something like that.
How do you get those kind of people interested in the sciences to shift their perception from where they're at now?
The devices that he used, like with his mother or the clan, you know, he strategically used those kinds of devices, or with the Arabs when he made them rub the thing and show them what gravity was. You know what I mean? Use those kinds of things. And started with the kids in New York City, started them on the things that they knew, the guns that they were interested in, and then took them to other things. And they became interested in drafting, you know, and their interest expanded with that. They had no other range of behavior. They couldn't do anything other than what they were shown. That's the same thing for all people.
If I meet a kid, and the kid says, I can run faster than you, I say, you probably can run twice as fast as me. And then let him have it. What can you do with that? He's only trying to get ahead of me. He says, I bet I can fight you. I said, it was one hand you can fight.
You know that example you say, where did you get, somebody says, where did you get that shirt? In the Salvation Army? They're trying to hurt you. So I got it from the junk pile of the Salvation Army. You know what I mean? Just give it to them tenfold.
You know, if a person's trying to hurt you, they'll say, weren't you married twice? No, 5 times. I'm looking for the right person.
One is suffering.
Yeah.
So I just am really interested to understand that, is there anything or course of actions that the Venus Project proposes as transition tools into the resource-based economy? Because it seems as though the free enterprise system is so far away. The free enterprise system of competition or markets, free markets, is so far away from the resource-based economy. It seems as though that it's closer related to something of a socialist model.